The room was a whirlwind of chaos. A sleek boardroom in a foreign city, where millions of dollars hung in the balance. The millionaire sat frozen, eyes darting nervously as the language barrier slammed like a wall between him and the deal of a lifetime. Panic was rising. The words flew around him in rapid-fire foreign tongues, but none made sense. It was as if he were trapped in a silent movie, desperately searching for a translator who never showed up. The irony? The person who would save the day wasn't in a tailored suit or wielding a fancy title. It was the janitor quietly standing in the corner. Imagine that moment for a second. You're about to close a $10 million deal, and suddenly, everything slips through your fingers because nobody understands a word. Now, here's the kicker. The most unexpected hero, someone you might have overlooked all along, steps forward and changes everything. What would you do if the fate of your biggest opportunity depended on the least expected person in the room? It's a story about panic, silence, and then an incredible voice breaking through the noise. Get ready to witness a journey where language barriers crumble, egos soften, and respect rises from the most surprising source. You'll see how a moment of humility and unexpected help can transform not only a business meeting but a life, and even redefine success. Stay with me because this story is about more than just money. It's about recognizing value where we least expect it. Picture this. A millionaire landing in a foreign country, ready to close a critical business deal that could change everything. But there's a catch. His trusted translator, the person who bridges the language gap and smooths every negotiation, cancels last minute. Suddenly, the room fills with uncertainty. No one else understands the language, and the millionaire finds himself stranded in a sea of unfamiliar words, losing control in a way he's never experienced before. It's a vulnerable moment, one that shakes even the most confident leader. Imagine being a pilot midair and realizing your co-pilot just jumped out. That's the kind of panic that creeps in, heart pounding, mind racing, and the pressure mounting with every second. The millionaire's confidence, his carefully crafted plan, suddenly feels like a fragile house of cards ready to collapse. It's a raw reminder that, no matter how much success we've had, life can throw curveballs that strip us down to our core. But in that moment of chaos, something unexpected happens. An unlikely source of strength emerges. It's a story about overcoming language barriers, breaking down walls built by pride and preconceptions, and learning to recognize the hidden talents all around us. This isn't just about a business meeting. It's about humanity, respect, and the surprising ways life offers solutions when we least expect them. So buckle up, because what happened next will challenge everything you think you know about success, humility, and who really holds the power in moments of crisis. From the outside, the millionaire seemed untouchable. He had built an empire with sharp instincts, perfect timing, and just enough boldness to make high-stakes moves look effortless. In business meetings, he walked in with tailored suits and a presence that silenced rooms. Every handshake was calculated, every word measured. He didn't just attend meetings, he dominated them. For years, his secret to success seemed simple. Control everything, plan for every scenario, and never rely on anyone but himself. That kind of confidence doesn't just appear. It's forged in years of overcoming, often rooted in fear of going back to nothing. What most people never saw was the panic that lived beneath his surface. The fear that one misstep could cost him a millionaire contract. And so he kept building, planning, controlling, until the unexpected found a way in. He didn't grow up rich. In fact, his first office was a kitchen table and a borrowed laptop. But he had language, figuratively and literally, on his side. He learned how to speak the dialect of deals. Pitch decks, investor lingo, polished elevator speeches. He once said, "If you know how to speak their language, they'll think you belong." That belief carried him far. But it also made him blind to everything outside that bubble. When you climb too high on your own mountain, you start thinking you built the entire sky. That's where ego creeps in. That's where humility checks out. He wasn't just a millionaire by money, he was wealthy in pride, in image, in the illusion of control. There was a rhythm to his life, like a business meeting with no interruptions. Predictable, strategic. He had translators, advisors, lawyers, every tool, every person, every solution already paid for and placed perfectly on the board. Everything was organized like a chess game with him as the king. But as any grandmaster knows, a single pawn can change everything. The problem is, when you rely only on the language you understand, contracts, metrics, results, you miss the silent messages happening all around you. He thought fluency meant power. He thought power meant security. He thought security meant control. But control, as he was about to learn, is an illusion with a very short shelf life. In his world, you didn't ask for help, you hired it. And if help didn't show up in a suit with references, it probably wasn't worth listening to. That mindset worked until it didn't. The moment a translator failed to show up for the most important meeting of the year, his entire sense of power cracked like glass. It wasn't just the absence of language. It was the flood of panic that came with realizing he couldn't talk, couldn't persuade, couldn't close. Suddenly, a man who'd made millions with his voice was left speechless. Not because he had nothing to say, but because no one could understand him. And that moment, that uncomfortable silence, that was the beginning of something much greater. People don't usually associate panic with millionaires, but it's there. It just wears designer shoes. And when control slips away, that panic doesn't come gently. It crashes like a wave. That day, in that boardroom, surrounded by foreign investors, spreadsheets, and pressure, he felt something unfamiliar: helplessness. He couldn't fall back on his usual script. The safety net of routine was gone. That business meeting, meant to lock in a 7-figure deal, became a stage for one man's unraveling. And in the middle of it all, unnoticed and uninvited, someone watched silently, mopping the same floors she did every night. Now here's where life gets poetic. You see, while the millionaire spiraled in silence, the cleaning lady was already decoding everything. She had heard the panic in his voice, not because she understood the contract, but because she understood people. And unlike him, she knew what it felt like to be invisible in a room full of noise. For her, surviving meant navigating without a map, something our millionaire had never learned. That day, two worlds were about to collide. One built on control, the other on overcoming. What's funny is, people think status protects you from disaster. But it doesn't. Not when the problem isn't technical, it's human. That business meeting wasn't failing because of a missing translator. It was failing because the millionaire didn't know how to connect when the rules changed. That's the hidden truth. Real language isn't words. It's presence, emotion, humility. All things he had long forgotten in the comfort of control. But sometimes, life hands you a mirror in the most unexpected way. And it's often in moments of unraveling that we finally meet ourselves. This millionaire, who once believed that everything had to be meticulously managed, was about to discover a lesson more valuable than any contract he'd ever signed. The story of his life was about to take a sharp turn. Not because of strategy, not because of planning, but because of an unexpected solution hiding in plain sight, pushing a mop, wearing a name tag, and holding a talent no one saw coming. But the thing about unexpected help? It rarely arrives the way we imagine. Now, imagine trying to save a sinking deal, with everyone staring, time running out, and no words left to use. Trying to close a deal without language is like dancing with no music. Your steps might be correct, but no one feels them. That's the strange thing about communication. You can have the facts, the millionaire contract, the polished slides, but if the energy doesn't translate, you're just miming through the motions. Our millionaire had learned this the hard way before. Years ago, he lost a deal in Tokyo because he assumed numbers spoke louder than culture. He walked in talking percentages. They were listening for respect. He smiled too soon, interrupted too often, and didn't notice the silent pause that followed every translated sentence. That was a $5 million lesson in humility. But he didn't change. Not really. You see, he believed that if he just controlled enough variables, money, setting, language, nothing could go wrong. That's the lie control sells you, the illusion that preparation replaces perception. But business isn't math. It's emotion in a suit, and language is the bridge between logic and heart. In Paris, he once joked with a client about a killer deal, using a direct translation. Problem was, the word he used translated to something closer to slaughter. Needless to say, the room got cold fast. No translator could fix the tension in that moment. Misunderstanding isn't just about words. It's about missing the rhythm people live by. And that rhythm matters. Language isn't only what you speak. It's how you listen. Our millionaire didn't know how to listen. Not really. He was fluent in persuasion, yes, but not in empathy. He mistook silence for agreement, nods for understanding. And while he may have closed deals, he never opened connections. It was like hosting a dinner and never tasting the food. That's why, when a language barrier shows up, it doesn't just block words. It exposes all the cracks in our awareness. The translator didn't show up, yes, but the real breakdown was deeper. Have you ever tried explaining something deeply personal to someone who doesn't speak your language? Think about that moment of frustration, of reaching for words that just won't come. It's not just inconvenient, it's isolating. That's what he felt in that boardroom. For the first time in years, the millionaire was the one being misunderstood. And not because he lacked intelligence, but because he lacked access. That gap between knowing and being heard, that's where panic is born. And panic has a way of making even the smartest man feel like a fool in front of an audience. But here's where the metaphor deepens. Life itself is a language. We all speak different dialects through culture, class, experiences. A cleaning lady might speak with humility and action, while a businessman speaks with spreadsheets and suits. And when one can't hear the other, misunderstandings happen, not just in words, but in value. That boardroom wasn't just facing a linguistic problem, it was facing a recognition problem. He couldn't recognize the solution standing 10 feet away, because she didn't fit the language he understood. It's like walking through a museum blindfolded. The beauty's there, but you miss it. And we do that with people all the time. How many hidden talents walk past you every day, unspoken and unseen, because they're wrapped in uniforms instead of resumes? The millionaire had walked past his own solution for months without knowing it. The janitor? She understood language, not just English and Spanish, but human language. The kind that notices body shifts, reads tone, picks up on discomfort. And that skill, as he was about to learn, is rarer than gold. Let me tell you something I learned the hard way. Language doesn't just happen in words, it happens in presence. I once hired a consultant who barely spoke during meetings. Quiet guy, observant. Turns out, he closed a major deal for us by reading between the lines during a client lunch. No translator involved. His strength wasn't his accent. It was his attention. And that's the twist. Attention is translation. Attention is what turns silence into meaning, what catches the unsaid. But if you're always talking, you miss it. The millionaire never realized that until the silence got so loud he couldn't ignore it anymore. That boardroom became a pressure cooker. He glanced at the door again and again, waiting for someone in a suit to rescue him. But no one came. His voice had power, but no reach. That's when the most unexpected form of help began to stir. She hadn't spoken yet, but she had been watching, waiting, reading. She saw the panic behind his smirk. She recognized the breakdown for what it was. Not failure, but a gap needing a bridge. And as the tension grew thicker than the polished glass table in that room, something shifted. Just slightly, just enough, for a quiet decision to form. A mop paused, a breath held, and a hidden talent, shaped by years of invisibility, decided to step into the spotlight. The silence in that boardroom was the kind that presses on your chest. You could hear the faint hum of the air conditioning, the shuffling of papers that no one was reading, the anxious tapping of an expensive pen on a marble table. The millionaire sat at the head of the table, his eyes darting between faces that stared back at him. Polite but lost. He tried to gesture toward the screen, his voice a bit louder now, as if volume could replace clarity. This projection is based on Q4 performance, he repeated. Still blank stares. One investor leaned toward another and whispered. Another checked his watch. You could almost hear his confidence deflating, inch by inch with each failed sentence. The translator was nowhere to be found. 10 minutes had passed since the meeting started, and the panic was creeping in. Not loud yet, but real. The millionaire tried his best to keep the room moving. He smiled too much, nodded too hard, His eyes scanned the room for a lifeline. No one offered one. Instead, they sat waiting for meaning. It was the kind of moment that stretches seconds into hours. His assistant looked like she might cry. The investors looked like they might leave. And the millionaire looked like a man who had built his life on preparation, only to be undone by a missing voice. He tried switching to slides, big, bold numbers on the screen. Maybe numbers could talk for him. But numbers don't tell stories without context. And without translation, even $1 million proposal sounds like static. One investor raised an eyebrow. Another crossed his arms. Their body language said everything their mouths didn't. Doubt, discomfort, disconnection. Meanwhile, the millionaire was stuck trying to build a bridge using bricks no one recognized. His gestures grew wider, his words more frantic. And with each attempt, the message got more tangled. Now, if you've ever been in a room where no one understands you, you know what that feels like. It's like screaming underwater. You can see their faces, their reactions, but none of your words break through. That's what was happening here. The millionaire, once fluent in every business language, finance, negotiation, dominance, was now mute in the one that mattered most: connection. And in business, if you can't connect, you can't close. A millionaire contract doesn't sign itself. It's earned, moment by moment, breath by breath. And he was running out of both. To make things worse, every failed word chipped away at his image. These weren't just investors, they were influencers, people whose opinion carried weight in other rooms. The millionaire knew it. He felt it in the way one man leaned back, unimpressed. In how one woman tilted her head like she was evaluating more than just his pitch, maybe his competence. The room didn't feel like a business meeting anymore. It felt like a test. And he was failing, publicly, painfully, and worst of all, silently. That's the irony of power. You can have wealth, influence, a lifetime of winning, but one quiet failure, one unplanned disruption, and it all feels like it's slipping through your fingers. The millionaire had been in control for so long. He didn't know how to fall without making noise. But this wasn't a crash. It was a slow, agonizing unraveling. He tried one last phrase, "We value partnership," but it came out flat, like someone reading a line from a manual. No soul, no rhythm, just panic. The assistant finally leaned in, whispering that they were still trying to reach the translator. The millionaire nodded, face tight, jaw clenched. But deep down, he knew this wasn't just about language anymore. It was about perception. He didn't look like the genius entrepreneur now. He looked like a man stuck in a storm with no umbrella. In that moment, the room wasn't filled with clients. It was filled with witnesses, watching, judging, deciding. And just a few feet away, unnoticed as always, stood the cleaning lady. She had paused, quietly observing the storm unfold in front of her. In her eyes, curiosity. In her posture, calm. She could see what no one else could. The millionaire, so used to commanding the room, now looked small, vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, something shifted, not in him yet, but in her. She recognized something familiar in his struggle, something deeply human. And when no one else dared move, she did. She took one small step forward, not loud, not bold, just enough. Her hand didn't rise yet, but her presence did. And in a room drowning in silence, her quiet confidence began to echo. Not enough to change everything, not yet, but enough to spark something that couldn't be ignored much longer. She had always been there, every morning before the suits arrived, every night long after they left. Mop in hand, quiet steps, eyes lowered. She moved through those marble floors like a ghost, seen, but not acknowledged. And yet, this cleaning lady knew every corner of that building better than the executives who signed the checks. She knew the rhythm of meetings, the cadence of conversations, the silence between deals. While others discussed millionaire contracts and translations, she absorbed tones, gestures, and body language like second nature. She had been trained by necessity, not university. And yet, no one ever asked her name. Not once. Society has this strange habit. It assigns value based on clothes. A tailored suit signals authority. A cleaning uniform? Just background. But what if we're getting it all wrong? What if the people closest to truth are the ones we train ourselves not to see? That day, the janitor, the so-called invisible one, was the only person in the room who saw everything. She saw the panic in the millionaire's jawline, the subtle tension in his shoulders, the flicker of anxiety behind his forced smile. She didn't need a translation. She understood struggle. She lived it. And let's be real, how many times have you passed someone without seeing them? The security guard at the front desk, the cafeteria worker who remembers your order, the delivery person whose name you never ask? We live in a world obsessed with titles and status, but blind to quiet value. That's the tragedy. The people we overlook often carry the very answers we claim to be chasing. The janitor had never been invited to sit at the table, but in many ways, she had the clearest view of it. Life taught her to read rooms before she cleaned them. That's a language money can't buy. And what's wild is, she never expected recognition. She didn't want a promotion or applause. She just wanted to be useful. That's something you learn when life humbles you over and over. She had worked jobs most people wouldn't last a week in. She had been underestimated, ignored, dismissed. But she never let that turn into bitterness. Instead, she became sharper, more aware, like iron sharpened by fire. And now, here she was, at the edge of a failing business meeting, watching the powerful squirm, quietly holding the one thing no one else could offer, an unexpected solution. What fascinates me is how we equate silence with ignorance, as if those who speak the least know the least. But the cleaning lady had a different language, observation. And with that, she knew more about people than half the executives ever would. She saw patterns. She heard frustration before it turned into words. She noticed things most people missed, like when the millionaire's fingers began to twitch, a subtle sign of growing panic. She didn't need a degree to interpret that. She needed empathy, and that she had in abundance. You know what else she had? Courage. Not the loud kind that gets retweeted. The quiet kind that shows up without asking for permission. That's what made her special. She didn't wait for the world to change before taking action. She stepped forward knowing full well she could be mocked, corrected, even dismissed. Because people in uniforms aren't supposed to interrupt millionaires, right? But she did. Because she saw a human drowning in silence, and she knew how to speak. Not just through words, but with calm, collected presence. Let me tell you something personal. Years ago, I worked with a woman who had 2 jobs. Office cleaning by night, GED tutoring by day. Most people never said a word to her. One day, I asked her name. Turns out, she spoke 4 languages. She'd been a university professor in her home country. That shook me, because it made me realize how much genius we throw away by looking down instead of eye to eye. Just like the millionaire was about to learn, people are never just their job titles. They are their experience, their resilience, their overcoming. And there she was, standing still, heart steady, holding a mop in one hand and something greater in the other. Clarity. She was the only one who hadn't panicked. Maybe because she'd been through worse. Maybe because when life teaches you to survive in silence, you learn to hear what others miss. And in that boardroom, that unexpected moment of poise from a so-called nobody was about to change everything. Respect wouldn't be handed to her. It would be earned, in front of an audience that didn't see it coming. But before that, she had to make a decision. A small one, yes, but powerful. Raise her hand, or stay in the shadows. Stay where society said she belonged, or step into a role no one offered her. And when her fingers moved, slowly, deliberately, everyone turned. The moment the janitor raised her hand, the entire room froze. Not in fear, more like confusion. It was the kind of gesture that didn't belong in that setting, at least not from someone holding a mop. Her movement was subtle but confident, deliberate. She didn't stutter, didn't flinch. She simply lifted her hand, eyes steady, voice calm. I speak both languages. At first, it didn't register. Some assumed she was joking. Others turned away awkwardly, unsure whether to laugh or scold. After all, when you've labeled someone in your head, it's hard to hear them speak beyond the box you've put them in. Then came the whispers. You know the type. Soft, judgmental, laced with disbelief. Who does she think she is? Was she even asked to speak? This is a business meeting, not a classroom. One man chuckled under his breath, expecting someone to shut her down. But no one did. Not yet. Because under the weight of her words was something even louder: truth. She saw the gap. She heard the panic. And unlike the rest of the room, she didn't care about status. She cared about connection. She offered help not as a favor but as a solution. The millionaire, for a second, just stared. His mind raced, calculating risk. Could this woman, this cleaning lady, really pull him out of this mess? It clashed with everything he had believed. He had built his world on contracts, control, and professionals with badges. Not on unexpected help. Not on humility. And yet, the alternative was failure. So he did what he had never done before in a room full of power. He let go. He nodded slowly, eyes narrowed but curious. It wasn't trust yet, but it was the beginning of surrender. And that was new. Now, understand this. Humility and confidence are not opposites. They are dance partners. The cleaning lady wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't performing. She was simply stepping in because someone needed her. That's the magic of true humility. It doesn't hesitate when help is required. And confidence, real confidence, it isn't loud. It's grounded. It's not afraid to be underestimated. That's what she carried when she walked toward the table, quiet power. And that power began to change the energy in the room. Her steps across the polished floor echoed louder than any words spoken so far. It was as if the building itself paused to witness what was happening. Some still doubted. One man folded his arms, clearly offended that a janitor would insert herself. But doubt doesn't stop truth. And it certainly doesn't stop talent. She stood by the millionaire, not beneath him. She didn't ask to take over. She just asked, "Where would you like me to begin?" That's when the tension cracked. Not from pressure, but from possibility. Here's a little-known fact about leadership. It doesn't always wear a title. Sometimes, it wears humility like armor and speaks with clarity earned through adversity. The millionaire hadn't planned for this. He hadn't built a slide deck or signed a waiver. But in that moment, he did something rare. He stepped aside. And sometimes, stepping aside is the bravest move a leader can make. Especially when someone else sees what you missed. Especially when the answer doesn't look like what you expected. If you've ever been underestimated, you know that moment. When you finally get to show what's inside, and the room just isn't ready for it. That's what she felt. But she didn't flinch. Because this wasn't about proving herself. It was about helping. That's the difference between ego and purpose. One seeks attention. The other sees a need and acts. And when you move with purpose, even whispers of doubt become background noise. She was there to translate not just the language but the moment. And that required more than words. I remember once being in a startup pitch where the projector failed. Everyone panicked except the receptionist. She calmly offered to summarize the pitch herself from memory. First, people laughed. Then, she did it better than the founder. Investors were stunned. That's what this reminded me of. Moments when life flips the script, and you realize the background character has been holding the story together all along. That's what was happening here. The millionaire story had just added a new chapter, and she was writing the first line. And just like that, the tone shifted. The laughter stopped. The whispers faded. All eyes turned not to the millionaire, but to the woman standing beside him. The one with no name tag, no title, no credentials. Just presence. Just skill. Just heart. She hadn't demanded respect. She had earned it before even speaking a word. And that's when she opened her mouth. The first word out of her mouth was so clear, so precise. It stopped the room mid-breath. No accent. No hesitation. Just pure fluency. She translated the millionaire sentence as if she had written it herself. Her tone wasn't robotic. It was human. Nuanced. Perfectly timed. The business jargon, the financial language, the subtle emphasis on partnership and long-term vision. All of it flowed like she had done this 1,000 times. And maybe she had, just not in rooms like this one. Eyes widened. Postures straightened. The woman they barely noticed now held the room in the palm of her hand. There's something powerful about surprise. When someone defies your expectations, your brain has to recalibrate. That's what was happening. Each phrase she translated was a blow to the assumptions people had built around her. The man who had folded his arms before, now leaning forward, listening. The woman who had whispered earlier, taking notes. The millionaire, who had been silently praying for this to work, began to breathe again. With every word she delivered, she wasn't just translating language. She was rebuilding credibility. Not just his, hers too. And let's talk about her delivery. She didn't just speak the words. She carried their intention. That's what most translators miss. They say the sentence, but they lose the soul. Not her. She adjusted tone based on audience. She emphasized what needed to land. She added subtle pauses where trust needed room to grow. It wasn't just translation, it was communication. True, full-bodied, high-stakes communication. She was doing what the millionaire couldn't, making the room feel seen and respected. And that, more than anything, was what they needed. If you've ever watched someone step into their gift, you know that feeling. It's like watching lightning strike twice in the same spot. Rare, unforgettable. She had that. It was clear this wasn't luck. This was hidden talent finally finding space to breathe. You could almost feel the millionaire's pride returning. Not in himself, but in the moment. For the first time, he wasn't the smartest person in the room, and strangely, that was comforting. It took the pressure off. It replaced panic with presence. What's even more remarkable is how naturally she led. She never interrupted him, never outshined, just supported exactly where he needed it when he needed it. That's what makes great communicators. Not just their words, but their timing. And with each sentence she translated, she erased the doubts people had about the deal. The conversation found rhythm. The investors began asking questions. She translated those too flawlessly. Now, instead of silence, the boardroom buzzed with collaboration. Opportunity had returned to the table. It reminded me of watching an orchestra tune before a concert. Chaotic, disjointed, uncomfortable. Then one violin plays the first clean note, and suddenly everything aligns. That's what she did. She brought harmony. She turned discomfort into flow. And that transformation wasn't loud. It was elegant, smooth, intentional. The millionaire was finally able to do what he was best at. Pitch, negotiate, lead. But only because she had cleared the fog. She gave him his voice back, and in doing so, found hers. Here's a truth we rarely talk about. Sometimes your biggest value isn't in leading. It's in helping someone else lead better. And she embodied that. She didn't need the spotlight. She was the spotlight. Not because she wanted fame, but because she had earned respect. That's something money can't buy, and titles don't guarantee. She reminded the room that skill has no uniform. That fluency isn't just about language. It's about empathy, presence, and purpose. By now, no one was questioning her. Not the investors, not the millionaire, not even the assistant who had nervously watched her step forward minutes earlier. She wasn't just translating anymore. She was guiding, steering the conversation with dignity without ego. And as the meeting progressed, you could feel something even deeper shifting. Admiration. The kind that doesn't fade when the meeting ends. The kind that lingers. And just when it felt like the meeting had found solid ground again, something unexpected happened. The millionaire looked over, not down, at her. He smiled, not as a boss to an employee, but as a man who had just been saved by someone everyone else had ignored. And in that glance, something was silently agreed upon. This moment had already changed them both. The room felt different now. There was a softness to it, a kind of quiet awe that replaced the earlier tension. People weren't just listening, they were engaged. The millionaire, who minutes ago had been gritting his teeth and praying for a miracle, now leaned into the conversation with a calm he hadn't felt in years. He no longer had to force anything. The investors were nodding, asking questions, making eye contact. And beside him stood the reason for it all. A woman who once blended into the background, but now held the entire room with her voice and presence. What changed wasn't just the flow of language, it was the power dynamic. The millionaire wasn't performing anymore. He was collaborating, and it showed. He stopped dominating the conversation and started sharing it. He asked for her input, paused when she spoke, let her guide certain exchanges. That may not sound like much, but for someone used to control, it was a silent revolution. It wasn't about ego anymore. It was about partnership. And with every interaction, his trust in her deepened. The investors noticed it too. You could see it in their posture. They leaned in not just when he spoke, but when she did. The cleaning lady had gone from invisible to essential, and no one dared question it now. Her credibility wasn't built on credentials, it was built on action. It was earned in real time in front of everyone. And because she carried herself with humility, it didn't feel like a takeover. It felt like a breakthrough. Like a door that had quietly opened and invited the room into a better version of itself. Have you ever been in a moment where someone unexpectedly showed up for you, and everything changed? That's what the millionaire was experiencing. His entire identity had been wrapped around knowing, leading, commanding. But now, someone else had filled a gap he didn't even know he had. And instead of resisting it, he welcomed it. That's the beginning of real leadership. Recognizing value in others and making space for it. And that's exactly what he did. No pride, no defensiveness, just respect. And respect, once earned, becomes contagious. The assistant who once looked panicked now watched her with admiration. The boardroom that had once bristled with awkwardness now carried a sense of ease, even appreciation. Someone made a joke and everyone laughed, including the millionaire. And for the first time, the laughter wasn't forced. It was natural, because the energy had shifted from survival mode to collaboration mode. And that's where real deals happen, not in pressure, but in alignment. It reminded me of a time I led a seminar and completely blanked on a key point. A junior staff member quietly slid me a note with everything I needed. I read it, looked up, and delivered the line perfectly. She didn't want credit. She just wanted to help. But in that moment, she became my anchor. From that day on, I never walked into a room without including her in the strategy. Some people earn your trust in small, quiet moments, and that trust can last a lifetime. Back in the boardroom, that's what was forming trust. Not because it was asked for, but because it was deserved. The millionaire started turning to her before speaking, glancing for a subtle nod, a confirmation. She wasn't just translating anymore. She was interpreting the energy of the room, and that guidance gave him confidence. Not the polished kind he was used to, but the authentic kind, the kind built on connection, not control. You could feel that respect ripple outward. Even the skeptics in the room, the ones who had whispered or doubted, now looked at her differently. She hadn't demanded anything. She had simply delivered. And through that, she reminded everyone that titles don't define capability. Actions do. That's the kind of reminder that sticks. Plants a seed. And once that seed is planted, it starts to grow in unexpected places, in hiring decisions, in leadership style, in personal reflection. And while the meeting was far from over, the hardest part, the tension, the mistrust, the panic was gone. In its place, something rare was beginning to grow: mutual respect. The kind of respect that shifts how people think and how they lead. The kind that stays with you. And deep down, the millionaire knew this meeting would mark a before and after in his story. What he didn't know yet was why her fluency felt so familiar. Before she stood there translating with such calm authority, she lived a life few in that boardroom could imagine. An immigrant far from home, she carried with her not just a suitcase but a rich history. Years spent as a teacher, a professor even, in her native country. She had been a woman of knowledge and respect, someone who had shaped minds and guided futures. But life's unexpected turns had brought her here, sweeping away titles and status, leaving her to rebuild from scratch in a foreign land where her credentials meant little. The janitor's uniform was her survival, not her identity. Her story is one many immigrants share, a humbling journey from professional success to the margins of society. She had arrived with hopes and dreams, only to face a language barrier far more daunting than any academic text. It wasn't just about learning English. It was about navigating a culture that often equated worth with a paycheck or a job title. To make ends meet, she took the cleaning job, working nights when the world was quiet and her thoughts could roam free. It was a life of sacrifice, but also of quiet determination. There's a profound lesson here about humility and resilience. Imagine teaching a room full of eager students one day and sweeping floors the next. It's a reality check most don't expect, but one that teaches the value of unseen strength. She never lost her love for language, though. It was her anchor in a sea of change. Every night, after the floors were clean and the building silent, she would practice, reading books, watching shows, sharpening her fluency. Hidden talent doesn't always scream. It often whispers in moments of solitude, and this background gave her something unique: empathy. She knew what it meant to be overlooked, underestimated, silenced by circumstance. That empathy translated into how she listened in the boardroom. Carefully, respectfully, with attention to every nuance. She wasn't just a translator of words. She was a translator of experience. And that made all the difference. The millionaire's panic was palpable because it wasn't just a business deal at stake. It was a moment of human connection hanging by a thread. Let me tell you, I once met a man who was a lawyer in his home country but worked as a taxi driver here. He told me that the toughest part wasn't the long hours, but the invisible judgment. It's a shared story. People with hidden talents cleaning floors, driving cabs, doing invisible work just to survive. And while society tends to judge by surface, the truth is often deeper. Our janitor's story reminds us that life change isn't always linear. Sometimes you step back only to leap forward. She never expected a second chance. The business meeting wasn't just about a contract, it was a moment of recognition. Suddenly, her hidden talents were no longer hidden. They were shining in front of the very people who had underestimated her. It's ironic, isn't it? The very skills she'd kept alive in private, practicing with quiet persistence, were now the key to unlocking one of the biggest deals of the year. That's the kind of unexpected help that rewrites lives. Her story also challenges us to rethink how we define success. It's not always about the paycheck or the title. Sometimes it's about how you overcome discrimination and keep your dignity intact. About recognizing your own worth when no one else does. And about seizing opportunity when it finally arrives, even if it comes from the most unexpected places. She taught the millionaire more than just words that day. She taught him about respect and perseverance. And as the meeting continued, you could see flashes of her past in her eyes. A mix of pride, sadness, and hope. It was as if every step she took across that polished floor was a tribute to the life she had lived and the future she was building. That night, the janitor wasn't just cleaning floors. She was cleaning the slate of assumptions that had held her back, one translated word at a time. And the millionaire? He was about to learn the real value of hidden talent and humility. It's funny how quickly we judge someone by what they wear or the job they do. That boardroom was filled with people who had never looked beyond a cleaning uniform to see the story behind it. It's like judging a book by its spine. Glossy cover, bold letters, and never opening it to discover the real story inside. The cleaning lady's story was a living proof that people are more than their jobs. We assign labels and put folks in boxes without ever flipping a page. But real respect starts when you start reading. We often confuse appearance with ability. The millionaire himself had fallen into that trap. He'd assumed that the absence of a title or a suit meant absence of skill or value. But life has a way of humbling us, doesn't it? When the cleaning lady stepped up and translated flawlessly, it shattered those assumptions. She became a walking lesson in overcoming discrimination and bias. Because discrimination isn't always loud. It's subtle, like a whisper telling you you don't belong or you're invisible. Yet, she refused to let that whisper define her. Think about your own life. How many times have you underestimated someone because of their job, their accent, or the clothes they wear? Maybe it's a coworker, a neighbor, or even a friend. That little voice inside that dismisses others before knowing their story? It's a universal challenge. But here's the thing. When you stop judging, you open the door to opportunity. You allow yourself to be surprised, to recognize hidden talents that can change everything. The janitor's quiet courage reminded everyone of that. It's also a reminder about how respect is earned, not through status, but through action. The cleaning lady didn't demand respect with a loud voice or a flashy resume. She earned it through humility, skill, and the willingness to step in when others stepped back. It's a lesson for leaders and followers alike. Don't overlook someone just because they don't fit your preconceived notions. Instead, look deeper. Find the opportunity to collaborate. Find the humanity beneath the uniform. I once worked with a team where one member was a delivery driver by day and a coding student by night. Nobody expected much until one day, he solved a critical bug that had stumped the entire group. From that day forward, the respect he earned wasn't from his job title, it was from his contribution. Stories like that happen everywhere. It's a powerful reminder that hidden talent often lives in places we least expect. And it's those unexpected sources that fuel innovation and growth. The millionaire's story was no different. He learned a hard lesson about respect, how easy it is to overlook greatness just because it's disguised. He realized that humility isn't about lowering yourself, but about lifting others up. And that recognition can change the course of a meeting, a career, even a life. That's the power of seeing beyond the surface. That's the power of connection through language, action, and shared humanity. Language, in this case, was more than words. It was a bridge, a tool to overcome the silent barriers of bias and misunderstanding. And the cleaning lady's ability to navigate those barriers didn't just translate business terms. It translated respect and trust. That's the kind of translation that money can't buy. It's built on life experience and a deep understanding of overcoming adversity. Something that no millionaire contract or fancy suit can replicate. So, the next time you pass someone in a uniform or see someone working behind the scenes, remember, you don't know their full story. You don't know their talents or their journey. And maybe, just maybe, that person holds the key to your next unexpected opportunity. Because when you stop judging, you start recognizing. And when you start recognizing, everything changes. The millionaire was about to find out just how much. And just as that thought settled in the room, the deal was about to take its next step. The step where the cleaning lady's impact would become undeniable. The tension that had once gripped the room dissolved into applause, warm and genuine, echoing through the polished walls. It wasn't just the signing of a millionaire contract. It was the celebration of overcoming, connection, and unexpected help. The deal wasn't just a business victory. It was a life change. People exchanged smiles, eyes meeting with renewed respect. And amid the crowd, the cleaning lady stood quietly, her eyes bright but humble, the unlikely hero of this chapter. It was a moment that no one there would soon forget. What surprised everyone most was the millionaire's first handshake. It wasn't with the CEO, the lead investor, or even his closest advisor. No, he walked straight to the janitor. That gesture spoke volumes, respect earned, recognition given where it was due. It was an unexpected solution to a problem that had seemed impossible. The room noticed, and a subtle shift happened. The millionaire's confidence was no longer rooted in ego or control, but in humility and acknowledgement. It was the kind of respect that changes business culture, one handshake at a time. That handshake was more than a physical touch. It was a symbol of overcoming the invisible barriers of language, status, and prejudice. The cleaning lady had not only translated words, but had translated trust and credibility into something tangible. The applause wasn't just for the deal, but for the unseen talent who made it possible. The message was clear. Respect and opportunity can come from the most unexpected places. That's a lesson worth remembering in any business meeting. Have you ever witnessed a moment like that? A moment where someone you least expected suddenly becomes the key player? It's a powerful reminder that life isn't about where you start, but what you bring to the table. Sometimes, it's the people behind the scenes who carry the most valuable insights. Recognizing that can transform how you lead, how you collaborate, and how you see the world around you. It's about opening your eyes to hidden potential. The millionaire's journey to this moment wasn't just about signing a contract. It was about rewriting his story. His earlier panic gave way to gratitude. his ego softened by the realization that leadership sometimes means leaning on others. He learned that day that true success involves recognizing the worth in everyone. That lesson, wrapped in the simple act of a handshake, would resonate far beyond the boardroom. It was a turning point, a defining moment. That day also marked a new chapter for the cleaning lady. From invisible to invaluable, her life was poised for transformation. Offers, opportunities, recognition, all began to flow naturally. But more than that, she became a symbol of overcoming discrimination and embracing humility as strength. She reminded everyone that language barriers are only as limiting as we allow them to be. Her fluency wasn't just in words, but in breaking down walls and building bridges. It's important to note how respect breeds opportunity. When someone is truly seen and valued, doors open that were once invisible. The millionaire recognized that, and so did the investors. The deal was more than numbers on paper. It was a testament to collaboration across boundaries. A reminder that in business and in life, the unexpected solution often comes from the most unlikely place. That realization is powerful for anyone striving to grow and succeed. I recall a similar story where a janitor at a tech company saved a critical client meeting by fixing a computer glitch minutes before the presentation. Suddenly, she was invited to join brainstorming sessions. That small act of unexpected help redefined her career path and reshaped how the company valued every employee. The cleaning lady in our story was on the cusp of that same kind of ripple effect, one handshake away from a new beginning. And just as the applause died down, the millionaire caught her eye again, a silent thank you passing between them. That gratitude was more than business. It was respect, recognition, and the start of something greater. The deal was signed, but the story? Oh, it was just getting started. The aftermath of that boardroom moment rippled far beyond the walls of the meeting room. The cleaning lady, once overlooked, was suddenly offered a new position, one that leveraged her hidden talent rather than concealing it behind a mop. It wasn't just a promotion. It was recognition of the value she brought to the table, a tangible acknowledgement of overcoming the language barrier and breaking through discrimination. That shift wasn't just life-changing for her. It sent a message to everyone watching. Opportunity often hides where you least expect it. The millionaire himself felt the impact deeply. The panic he'd felt without a translator was replaced by inspiration. So much so, he launched a new hidden talents hiring initiative in his company, designed specifically to discover and nurture skills in people from unexpected backgrounds. This wasn't just about filling roles. It was about rethinking what talent looks like. It was about dismantling old biases and embracing diversity not just in culture but in experience, language, and life stories. This new approach reshaped the company culture from the inside out. This ripple effect is a powerful example of how one moment of humility and recognition can create waves. When a leader chooses to honor unexpected help, it cascades into real change, transforming policies, perceptions, and opportunities. The millionaire's story became a blueprint for other businesses, proving that success isn't just about numbers, but about human connection and respect. It was a bold move to put trust in people others might overlook, and it paid off in ways no spreadsheet could predict. In your own life or career, think about the ripple effects of your actions. How often do you recognize hidden talents in those around you? Are you willing to look past first impressions and language barriers to see the potential beneath? The ripple effect starts with a single choice, a choice to respect, to listen, to offer opportunity where none seem to exist. It's those small decisions that build momentum and reshape entire communities and industries. The cleaning lady's journey was no longer just her story. It had become a catalyst for broader change. Employees across the company started sharing their own hidden talents and stories, inspired by the initiative. Language barriers weren't seen as roadblocks anymore, but as challenges to overcome together. The company became a place where unexpected solutions were celebrated, and humility was recognized as a leadership strength. This culture shift fueled innovation and collaboration, proving that respect leads to results. The ripple effect also sparked conversations beyond the corporate world. Local communities, inspired by the story, began launching programs aimed at recognizing immigrant skills and translating those into opportunities. It was a reminder that human potential is often locked away by social and economic barriers, and it takes courage to unlock it. The cleaning lady's story was no longer a single event, but a movement toward inclusion and recognition of all kinds of talents. I remember reading about a CEO who, after a similar experience, started a mentorship program for people from overlooked communities. The impact was profound, not just on the men's but on the company's culture and success. The ripple effect of recognizing hidden talent is multidimensional. It improves lives, businesses, and entire ecosystems. That's why the millionaire's choice to act on humility and recognition was so critical. It wasn't just good ethics, it was good business. And as the ripple grew, so did the millionaire's understanding of leadership. He realized it wasn't about commanding or controlling. It was about fostering environments where hidden talents could shine, where language barriers could be bridged by unexpected solutions, and where respect became a core value. This ripple was just beginning, but its waves promised to reshape more than just a single company or deal. And while the company celebrated its newfound culture, the millionaire often found himself reflecting quietly. How easily he could have missed this moment, how close he came to panic and failure, and how the humility to accept help had brought not only a contract but a life-changing lesson on the true meaning of success. We often think of genius as something grandiose, bright minds in fancy offices, flashy inventions, or big headlines. But how many geniuses slip through the cracks simply because they clean our floors or work behind the scenes? Social class acts like an invisible filter, shaping who gets recognized and who stays hidden. The cleaning lady's story is a powerful reminder that human potential isn't defined by job titles or income brackets. It's waiting, often unnoticed, in the most unexpected places. And missing that talent is a loss we all pay for. The millionaire's experience shines a light on this invisible barrier. He had almost ignored brilliance simply because it came in a janitor's uniform. That's the harsh truth about how society undervalues people based on appearance and status. But when the language barrier was broken, when the cleaning lady's hidden talent was revealed, it exposed the flawed assumptions we all make. It's a call to rethink how we see people, not just as workers or labels, but as complex beings with untapped abilities. Think about the countless stories of individuals who have reinvented themselves after being overlooked. Maybe a factory worker who becomes a best-selling author, or a janitor who's secretly an expert in finance. These stories challenge the rigid definitions of class and potential. They show us that intelligence, creativity, and skill don't come with a price tag or a job description. They come from the human spirit, resilience, curiosity, and the drive to overcome. This is more than just a social issue. It's a business imperative. Companies that recognize and embrace diverse talents from all social classes often outperform those stuck in traditional hiring molds. They gain fresh perspectives, innovative ideas, and unexpected solutions. The Millionaire's new initiative is a prime example of how breaking class barriers can create real opportunity and growth. It's a reminder that respect for human potential must transcend social divisions if we want to build truly successful organizations. There's also a personal lesson here. How often do we limit ourselves by believing where we come from defines where we can go? The cleaning lady's story shows that overcoming discrimination and societal expectations is possible. It requires humility, yes, but also a fierce determination to be recognized for what you truly offer. And it's a lesson in empathy for leaders, co-workers, and society at large, to see beyond social class and value the whole person. I remember hearing about a genius mathematician who worked as a dishwasher for years, unnoticed until a chance conversation revealed his true skill. It's shocking but true. Many are forced into survival jobs, and their talents are buried under layers of necessity. Stories like these challenge us to look deeper, to question our assumptions, and to actively seek hidden talents in unlikely places. That's how communities grow, how businesses thrive, and how individuals reclaim their worth. Language and culture often act as additional barriers. Immigrants, like the cleaning lady, face double challenges, class and communication. Yet their potential is immense. When we learn to listen, truly listen, and create spaces for those voices, we unlock innovation and growth that no standard hiring process can deliver. The Millionaire's panic was not just about language. It was about missing out on these deep wells of human potential. So, the next time you pass someone cleaning your office or serving your coffee, consider the story you might be missing. Consider the opportunity for unexpected help, for hidden talent, for a life change that could impact you in ways you never imagined. Because often, it's in those quiet, overlooked moments where true genius lives. The Millionaire story was a powerful wake-up call to this reality. And as the discussion in that room ended, and the applause faded, one thought lingered. How many more hidden geniuses are just waiting for a chance? Waiting for someone to see beyond the surface and recognize their true value? It's amazing how a single story can resonate with so many, striking a chord deep within our own experiences. When people heard about the cleaning lady stepping up and breaking the language barrier, they started sharing their own moments of being underestimated. Those moments when society's blind spots looked right through them, ignoring their true potential. It's a shared human experience, this feeling of invisibility, and it's humbling to realize how many of us have carried that weight. These personal reflections remind us that humility and recognition aren't just ideals, they're necessities. One woman recalled working entry-level jobs while pursuing a degree, constantly told she wasn't qualified or ready. Yet, her perseverance paid off when she finally earned a leadership role, proving the doubters wrong. Her story parallels the janitors in many ways. Both exemplify overcoming discrimination and the language of doubt. These reflections bring home the reality that respect must be earned, but also given freely to encourage growth. When people feel seen, their hidden talents begin to surface, transforming not just their lives but the communities they serve. A man shared a story of being passed over for promotions because of his accent, despite his expertise. His experience echoes the millionaire's initial panic and misunderstanding in the boardroom. Language barriers can become invisible walls, isolating talented individuals and limiting opportunity. But when those barriers are broken, whether by a translator, an ally, or one's own hidden talent, the path forward suddenly opens. These personal testimonies give voice to a struggle many face, and they highlight the power of unexpected help and humility. These reflections also reveal the deep human need for respect. It's not just about recognition in a resume or a paycheck. It's about being valued as a person, acknowledged for your effort, your skills, your worth. When people are underestimated, it chips away at their confidence. But when someone believes in them, really believes, they find strength to overcome. That's the ripple effect in action. It starts with one act of kindness, one moment of unexpected help, one word of encouragement, and it spreads. Listening to these stories reminds us all that life change is often messy. It's not a straight path from struggle to success. It involves setbacks, moments of doubt, and sometimes painful lessons in humility. The millionaire's journey was no different. His panic, his ego, his need for control, those were barriers just as real as any language gap. But the cleaning lady's presence and fluency helped him navigate not just the boardroom, but his own limitations. It's a lesson in overcoming, and one worth remembering. In hearing these reflections, it's clear that respect and recognition are two-way streets. Leaders must be open to receiving help, and individuals must have the courage to step forward, even when underestimated. The millionaire's shift from panic to trust embodies this beautifully. It's a reminder that true leadership isn't about perfection. It's about connection, vulnerability, and the willingness to learn from unexpected sources. And that's a lesson anyone can apply in their own life. What's more, these personal accounts serve as a call to action. They urge us to challenge our own biases, to seek out hidden talent, and to create spaces where language, culture, and social class aren't barriers but bridges. When we do that, we foster environments where people thrive and opportunities multiply. The cleaning lady's story is a beacon for that kind of change, showing that when we embrace humility and recognition, amazing things happen. So, whether you've been underestimated or you've underestimated someone else, these reflections invite you to rethink what you value, to see beyond the surface and recognize the unexpected solutions waiting to be discovered. Because in the end, it's these human connections, this mutual respect, that create the foundation for true success, both in business and in life. And as the interviews closed, one thing was clear: Everyone carries a story of overcoming, a hidden talent waiting for the right moment. The question is, will you be the one to notice it next time? After the deal was done, the millionaire sat back and reflected on the whirlwind of the day. What struck him most wasn't the ink drying on the contract or the business figures that promised growth. No, it was the profound lesson in humility that came unexpectedly from the cleaning lady's quiet strength. "That was the most valuable moment of my career," he admitted later. Not the contract, but the humility. Those words carried weight because they revealed a transformation deeper than any business victory. A shift in mindset and heart. For years, his confidence had been tied to control, to knowing every angle and leading every conversation. But that day, in the absence of a translator, panic crept in. It threatened to unravel everything he had built. Yet, it was in surrendering control and accepting unexpected help that he found clarity. That moment of humility was a breakthrough, one that redefined how he saw leadership, success, and himself. He realized that real strength lies in recognizing when you don't have all the answers. It's a lesson many of us struggle to learn. We associate humility with weakness, but true humility is a source of power. It opens doors to collaboration, to learning, and to growth. The millionaire's acknowledgement reminds us that success isn't about solo triumphs or ego battles. It's about connection, about respecting others' hidden talents, and about embracing opportunities, even when they come from surprising places like a cleaning lady in a boardroom. Think about the last time you had to admit you didn't know something or needed help. How did it feel? For many, that's the hardest part. But like the millionaire, when we lean into humility instead of resistance, we often discover unexpected solutions and build stronger relationships. Humility is a catalyst for trust and respect, essential ingredients for any successful business meeting or personal journey. It's a mindset shift that transforms panic into peace. The millionaire's realization also highlights the value of language, not just as words spoken, but as connection and understanding. The cleaning lady's fluency bridged more than a communication gap. It bridged hearts and minds. Her unexpected help reminded him that overcoming barriers, whether language, status, or ego, is possible when we open ourselves up to learning and collaboration. That's a message with profound implications for leaders and dreamers alike. I remember a mentor once told me, "Ego is the enemy of progress." It's a simple truth that the millionaire learned firsthand. His ego wanted to control the situation, but humility allowed him to receive help and ultimately succeed. It's a powerful reminder that no matter how successful we are, there's always room to grow, especially when we stop trying to do it all alone. Recognizing our limitations is the first step to real opportunity. And here's the twist. Humility doesn't diminish success. It amplifies it. It invites respect, inspires teams, and creates space for innovation. The millionaire's contract might have been the headline, but humility was the headline writer. It's the undercurrent that supports every lasting achievement. Without it, even the biggest deals can fall flat. With it, even the smallest acts can change a life. So, when the millionaire says that humility was the most valuable part of his career, he's inviting us all to reconsider our own definitions of success. To see that sometimes the greatest victories come not from our own brilliance, but from recognizing the brilliance in others. And when we do that, we open the door to endless opportunities, unexpected solutions, and life-changing collaborations. And as he looked back on that day, the millionaire knew that his journey was no longer just about deals or contracts. It was about respect, trust, and the kind of leadership that embraces humility. But little did he know, the real redefining of success was just around the corner. Success has often been painted as a solo journey, a race to accumulate knowledge, wealth, and control. But what if the real secret to success isn't knowing everything, but knowing how to recognize value in others? That's the profound insight our millionaire learned through his experience. It's not about being the smartest or loudest in the room, but about spotting hidden talents and unexpected help. It's about humility, respect, and a willingness to let others shine alongside you. When you shift your mindset from being the sole hero to a collaborator, the entire game changes. Imagine a business meeting where instead of dominating conversations, you listen intently, valuing every voice. Think about the opportunities that open when you start seeing the janitors, the translators, the quiet ones as vital contributors. That's where true innovation lives, at the intersection of diverse experiences and genuine respect. Recognizing value in others requires intentionality. It's about breaking down invisible walls, language barriers, social class, and preconceived notions that limit your perspective. For leaders, this means creating a culture where unexpected solutions can emerge and hidden talents can thrive. For individuals, it means humility to accept help and courage to offer it. It's a two-way street that fuels growth, both personal and professional. In practical terms, this could mean implementing hidden talents programs like the Millionaire did, or simply pausing before judging someone's worth based on their role or appearance. It could mean actively seeking mentors and collaborators from diverse backgrounds, or learning a new language to bridge communication gaps. The actions are simple, but the impact is profound. It's about cultivating respect and opportunity at every level. I recall reading about companies that transformed their culture by embracing this philosophy, recruiting janitors, cleaning staff, or cafeteria workers with unique skills, then promoting them into leadership roles. The results? Increased creativity, better team morale, and a significant boost in business performance. These stories prove that success grows where respect and recognition flourish. The Millionaire's journey is one more example in a growing movement. This new definition of success also demands patience and humility. It's not always flashy or immediate. It involves setbacks, moments of discomfort, and challenges to long-held beliefs. But it's deeply rewarding. It builds trust, strengthens relationships, and opens doors to opportunities that no contract or business plan could guarantee. It's about seeing success as a shared journey, not a solitary conquest. Language plays a critical role here, not just in communication, but in building understanding and connection. When the cleaning lady bridged the language gap, she did more than translate words. She translated respect and trust. That's the kind of connection that redefines success, turning panic into partnership and ego into empathy. It's a reminder that sometimes the best solutions come wrapped in unexpected packages. So, if you want to redefine success in your own life, start by looking around. Who are the hidden talents in your world? Who might offer unexpected help if only given the chance? Success isn't about knowing everything. It's about embracing others and the unique gifts they bring. It's about humility, respect, and collaboration. And when you embody those values, you open yourself to a world of possibilities. And as the Millionaire's story closes, it leaves us with a powerful invitation to rethink what success means and how we measure it. Because true success is not the destination. It's the journey of recognizing, respecting, and uplifting the people around us. And that journey, well, it's just getting started. If there's one thing this story teaches us, it's simple. See people, not just the roles they play or the titles they hold, but the real, hidden potential they carry inside. The cleaning lady didn't wear a suit or command the room, but her hidden talent, humility, and courage saved the day. Greatness doesn't always come wrapped in power or money. It often shows up in the quietest corners, the unexpected helpers, the overlooked voices. Stay humble. That's the heart of this lesson. It's easy to get caught up in confidence and control, but true respect and recognition come from acknowledging that none of us know it all. When we open our eyes and hearts to those around us, we unlock unexpected solutions, and life changes that no business plan can predict. Humility is the bridge between panic and opportunity, between misunderstanding and connection. So next time you're in a room, about to close a deal or face a challenge, don't just look ahead. Look around. Notice the people others overlook. Listen to the voices you didn't expect to hear, because sometimes the one who saves the day isn't the person with the biggest title. It's the person with the hidden talent waiting quietly in the corner. And recognizing that can change your life and your business forever. Remember, respect is not just polite, it's powerful. It fuels trust, collaboration, and success that lasts. When we embrace the unexpected, we embrace growth. When we honor humility, we open doors. The Millionaire's journey was more than a business win. It was a masterclass in overcoming barriers and recognizing the incredible value in every human being. Let this story be a reminder. Don't let panic or ego blind you. Greatness often wears a uniform you might overlook, speaks a language you might not expect, and offers solutions you never imagined. Keep your mind open, your heart humble, and your respect genuine. That's where real breakthroughs happen. If the story moved you, if it made you think twice about who holds the power in a room, share it with someone who's ever been underestimated. Because everyone deserves to be seen, respected, and given a chance to shine. Subscribe to Millionaire Breakthrough for more real stories of courage, humanity, and unexpected greatness. We dive deep into life-changing moments where respect, humility, and hidden talents turn ordinary people into true heroes. Don't miss out. Hit that notification bell and join the community that believes success is about recognizing value in others. And if you want to keep learning, check out our next video, The Millionaire Who Lost It All But Found Redemption in the Most Unlikely Place. It's a story about overcoming despair, finding humility, and discovering that sometimes the biggest wins come from the hardest losses. Remember, the greatest breakthroughs are often just one unexpected moment away. See you there.